music, got to get into the groove, the flow, everything. And music's a beautiful thing. So, you know what? Hopefully, everyone's having a great night tonight. It was Valentine's Day. So, if you had a loved one or somebody that was there for you, hopefully it was a great day, even though every day should be Valentine's Day. It's one of those crazy things when we look at it, how it's the fact that it is so commercialized. And why is it only one day? And it's one of those things that everybody's like, oh, I love you. And then the rest of the time, maybe you're like, I want to kill you and whatnot. It's like, okay, so we have one day of loving each other. But then the rest of the time, it's like, oh, well, it's not Valentine's Day. It's not commercialized, so it's not shown. So it makes me laugh just because of the fact that it is. Oh man, I don't know. But if you don't have anybody like myself, hopefully you've taken the time to really like dig in and find out who you are, love yourself for who you are, and just embrace what you bring to the table because you do bring things to the table. You're a unique individual and you're a person that has a specific skill set, very unique, and you bring it to the table. So bring it, share it, let people know who you are. Don't hide, don't do anything of that. But it is one of those things because this weekend I have my kids and my oldest. Well, I think both of them, but I know my oldest likes to play a game Among Us. If you've never played it, part of the talk is in accordance with the game. So it's one of those unique things. But got to give a shout out to our sponsors. I've got two that I'm highlighting tonight. And so we've got them down here, Rock City Cafe and the Chicken Coop. So with Rock City Cafe, it's rock music, solid food, and a feel-good local spot for the people. And that is very true. It's one of those spots that is community focused, community driven. And Ricky with his wife Angel and Brittany, who does the waitressing and whatnot, great spot, focus on the community. Come enjoy delicious eats with a great atmosphere. Rock City Cafe located at 1812 Dominion Way. Check out the menu at www.facebook.com/Rock City Cafe. Locally run, local community spot, and a great place just to go visit. Give a shout out to Ricky if you go in there. Let him know Scott and Patrick had sent you that way. But go show some love to Ricky. And then with the Chicken Coop, this past Friday, we were out there with Tabala. Give a shout out to Jasper with Tabala's Food for Thought. But it was one of those amazing things that just to feel the energy at the bar, the patrons that is Miss Sherry's secondary family, the extension of the family, and just their drive and their passion really to be a community spot. So it is a unique thing to have the sponsors that they are community minded. So with the Chicken Coop is a local bar for local people hosting local events. Come check out their daily happy hour from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. They do poker, live bands, and support their local community and veterans. The Chicken Coop located at 11627 Black Horse Road. Check them out at facebook.com/slash the Chicken Coop, a clucking good time. And oh man, just love it and whatnot. But it is one of those unique things when we look at it because if you, like I said, if you've never played Among Us, which is a crazy game, but these are some characters, and it's actually for my kids' goodie bag that they went to friends of theirs. So they had one of those birthdays, so it was a goodie bag, but these are stickers and whatnot. But if you've never played it, it's these little spacemen, I guess, that are in outer space, and among the group is the imposter. And that imposter goes around and kills off the crewmates, and the crewmates are trying to solve who is the imposter among them and whatnot. And it's unique because you've got to look at yourself. And are you an imposter? Are you showing up as your unauthentic self? Are you showing up with a mask and trying to play this aspect of, let me be this person that this person wants me to be? Let me be this person that this person wants me to be, instead of showing up and being the person that you're meant to be, showing up and being true to yourself, your true solid self, and saying screw everybody else. Like if they don't like you, cool. If they don't love you, cool. Like certain people will not be part of your journey, which is okay. But if you're out here being an imposter and not showing up as your true self, you're missing out on a great opportunity to make those authentic connections. And I find it very curious because of the fact that we look at social connections and we look at the importance of having those connections with other individuals. But when we look at the given point in time, when you look at yourself, if you don't truly love yourself and you don't truly accept yourself for who you are, how do you expect to show up and be that authentic person? If you don't truly love yourself for who you are and you aren't being that full out authentic individual that you're supposed to be, how are you going to make those connections? Because if you look at yourself and you can't accept yourself for who you are and you don't love yourself, which is unique that today is Valentine's Day, but it is one of those things that if you don't love yourself and you're not showing up as your true self, how are you going to make those very important social connections? How are you going to find those individuals that need to be in your life, that are meant to be in your life because of who you are, because of who you're attracting, who you're becoming? And it's one of those powerful things that it does take the work. It takes the deep dive to work on yourself. But it's one of those aspects that when we look at the piece of, and I'm looking here, and this is coming from Buddha and the Badass. And so I will put a link for an affiliate link through Amazon that you can go purchase the book. It's one of these books that I highly suggest go and getting and reading and taking the time to do the deep dive and work on yourself. And I've had individuals that have asked me, so what really started that point for you to get to where you're at now? To get to the point where you love yourself, you accept yourself. And this book is one of those tools that I I will lean on. It's my Think and Grow Rich. You'll have a lot of people that will talk about Think and Grow Rich, and that is their go-to book that they go and review every year. And so The Buddha and the Badass is one of those books that I look at that is my Think and Grow Rich. And it is one of those tools that I've utilized and brought into fruition to do the work on myself, to do that deep dive, really find out what my foundational values are, who I am, and really what drives me. And so I give credit to this book. And when we look at the aspect of the connections, the Sheen had talked about in here the fact that there was a Harvard study, and they had found out that social bonds have a zero point 0.7 correlation. So if you know statistics, once you hit one, that's like the one true thing that holds truth to it. But a zero point 0.7 correlation is what leads to happiness. And I'm like, all right, that's cool, because I did see an individual that had posted a post on Facebook today, and it was talking about the social connections. But it got me thinking, because how are you going to create authentic social connections with individuals if you don't love yourself? How are you going to show up and really make those connections that are needed to be made? How are you going to bring those people that are meant to be in your life, because you're attracting them? So you got to do the work. But if you don't love yourself and you're showing up with this fake mask on and you're not being true to yourself, how do you expect to create that full bore happiness? How do you expect to have a happiness that you've created because you've worked on yourself and you accept yourself for who you are, for flaws, quirks, the crazy things that maybe somebody looks at and they're like, what is going on here? Like it's hard for people to accept you for who you are, which is okay. You know what? If you find those individuals that don't accept you for who you are for everything, that person's not meant to be part of your life. That they're not meant to be part of your journey. And it's one of those unique things that how do you make that true social connection if you don't truly love yourself, if you don't truly like yourself? And so I would ask, and you'd have to do the deep dive when you look at yourself right now, how much of yourself are you accepting? How much of you are you showing up and playing big and being true to yourself and being that authentic individual that the world deserves to have here around everybody else? Are you at a 75% acceptance rate? So if you're 75% accepting yourself, you've got 25% that you have this mask that is covering yourself because you don't accept yourself for whatever part that is. And so if you're pushing that out and that is who you're showing up and you're showing up with that mask on for those certain points, what makes you think somebody else is going to accept you for you if you're not accepting yourself? And it's the work. You have to do the work. You can collapse the work because if you start reading the books, you start surrounding yourself with those individuals that see more in you than you see in yourself, but also finding those individuals that give you the space, that give you the grace to accept you for who you are, flaws and everything. It's a beautiful thing, but that starts with you as an individual doing that work. And so if you're at a point where you're single on this Valentine's Day, this beautiful Valentine's Day, accept it, run with it. You know what? That's a perfect opportunity. Your soil to grow as an individual is very fertile. It's ready for you to start planting, cultivating, and creating that container that you're meant to have. And if you're in a relationship and you're not happy, which it's one of those unique things that social media has done a great job where people put up a front and show that they're always happy and they're not going to share the dirty, slimy, unnecessary parts because they're scared. They're scared of being jaded. And it's one of those things that show up as your whole self, flaws and all. And it's one of those things that people really truly are drawn to by being your true authentic self. Because it's funny, I was hanging out with a friend last night and we were talking and they had brought up the fact that they're like, I don't understand what it's about who you are. And so as we were talking, it was brought up that a lot of individuals aren't honest. A lot of people aren't showing up as their true solid self and being that authentic individual. They fully have taken off the mask and are showing up as their true self. And they had brought up the fact that because of that honesty and that vulnerability and just being myself, and really it's like, this is what you get. If you love it, you love it. If you hate it, you hate it. That's on you. That's your lens. But I'm showing up the way I am. Because guess what? When I show up this way, it does create a space for somebody else to start showing up as their true authentic self and being that individual who they're meant to be. They can start sliding that mask off. And it's the space of non-judgment. And it's a unique thing, honestly, when you look at it. How many people can you truly lean on and have that space of grace, have the space of non-judgment? How often are you giving yourself that space? How often are you doing that work to love yourself for everything? And that can be tough because you've got to look in the mirror and you've got to look at that person that's staring back at you and say, I love you. Going back to Valentine's Day. But you got to look at yourself and be like, I love you. I love you for who you are. I love you for everything that you bring to the table. I love you for everything that you do, flaws and all. And so it's one of those things that you may be listening to this, you may be watching this on the replay, on the live, whatever it is. And you're like, that's crazy. There is no way I could do that, because we've gotten to the point where society tells us that if we love ourselves and we look at ourselves in the mirror and we say, I love you, that can be looked at as egotistical or narcissistic or some bullshit, that society is telling you that this is how it is. And so think about that, because you have this identity that somebody else has created for you. You have these belief systems that society is pushing on you, and you aren't accepting yourself for who you are. How are you showing up in everyday life? Because if you can't accept yourself for yourself, and you can't look at yourself and say, I love you, thank you for who you are, thank you for what you do, thank you for everything that you do for other people. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a different aspect when you look at it, but you just never know. And anybody that's making comments right now, I'm on my phone right now, so if you're making comments, I do apologize if there anything in regards there. Let me look here. Yeah, nothing. All right, cool. I'm just letting you know I've got some people watching. I don't know who it is and whatnot, but if you're watching right now, would love to have at least hashtag live. Put that in the comments just to see who's here and whatnot. But anything that right now that's sticking out, anything that you're taking away, go ahead and leave it in the comments. It's that connection point, it's the conversation point, and once the live's done, I'll go and check and see what we got going on and whatnot. But it is one of those things that when you look at it and you're starting to think, you're like, there is no way that I can look at myself in the mirror and say I love myself, because it's tough, because we are so critical of ourselves. We are our worst critic, and we are the individual that really drives us down to a point where we don't accept ourselves for who we are. And ultimately, the person that is holding you back legitimately is yourself. Nobody else is doing that. It is you that is holding yourself back. And so, what can you do to overcome that? What can you do to get to that level where you can overcome and get to that level where you accept yourself for who you are? You've got to do the work. And that's where you're going through and knocking down those limiting beliefs, knocking down that paradigm that somebody has stuffed in your head and have told you this is what you need to believe. This is the thoughts that you need to have. And you're like, fuck that shit. And it's funny because right now, when you look at it, how do you talk to yourself? How are you speaking to yourself? Are you showing up and speaking true to yourself? Or are you being this little guy, this purple guy here, and being that imposter and following through with what people tell you need to do, following through with the rules and whatnot? If you really truly think about it, if you had a friend that was coming and talking to you and they were saying the same crazy shit that you're saying to yourself, what are you going to do? You're going to look at that friend and tell them, dude, you don't need to talk to yourself that way. Like, that's fucking stupid. Like, why, as individuals, are we fucking assholes to ourselves? Why? What is it? And maybe that shocks you a little bit because of that. But if you know who I am, you know, fuck is one of those words that gets utilized. And it does shock people. It really does shock people. But it needs to happen because we've got to have something that shocks our system. We've got to shake it and come out and do something different. Go against the status quo. If you had listened to the podcast that I had done with David Prosper, shout out to David, big visionary, big dreamer, loved having the conversation. And we were talking about what he has experienced, what he's doing, the vision that he has and whatnot. And it's one of those unique things that David had talked about. He's like, people were saying this is the status quo, this is how things are done. And David's like, no, like there's a better way to do it. And so are you listening to what somebody else is telling you? Are you following the status quo because it's comfortable, because it's easy? Or are you going to forge that path, your path that has not been traveled? And you can look and you've got two paths. You've got one that's well worn down, and that's the path that everybody's been taking. That's the path that society's pushing you down. And that's why it's well worn, because everybody's walking down that path. Or you look at this other path, and it is not clear. It has no wear and tear because nobody's gone down this path. Everybody's scared. They're like, oh my goodness, it's dark. Go take an axe with you and start chopping down the damn trees. Guess what? Those trees right there are probably challenges that you need to go face. You need to go embrace. And go take the axe with you, or go take the chainsaw, whatever is easiest that you want to do. But go do the work. Go embrace and go run towards those challenges. Guess what? You're gonna thank yourself because you're gonna go to the point where you're accepting yourself for who you are. You're loving yourself. And so that's one of the driving forces when I talk to individuals is the relationship that we have to work on is the relationship with ourselves. A lot of people have this very horrible relationship with themselves for whatever reason, I don't know. And to each their own. And so that's where you've got to do the deep dive. You got to do that the work on yourself. And it can be scary. But the biggest relationship that we have to work on is the one with ourselves. Because that relationship bleeds into everything else. And that's why when you start attracting the people, the individuals, the opportunities that you're like, this makes no sense. Why am I attracting this stuff? It's because of what you're projecting. If you don't truly love yourself and you don't work on that relationship, which is the most important one, which is the relationship with yourself, because you are 100% integral in every situation. You can run away from one relationship and get into another relationship. And if you haven't done the work, that new relationship is going to reflect and look like the old relationship because you haven't done the work on yourself. You haven't done what you needed to. And so it's one of those things, honestly, that you can't do it by yourself. And you're probably looking at me and you're like, screw it, I will do it by myself. And I'm like, all right, cool. You can go try. But if you haven't done the work on yourself and you have these same thoughts, these same thought patterns, you have these same stories that you told yourself in the previous relationship, and you carry that over to the new one, why do you expect different results? Why do you expect different things to take place? And that's why I say you doing things on your own is not beneficial because you're 100% integral in everything. And so if you aren't doing the work to break down the stories, and that's where the importance of the tribe that you build, it's very important that you have that tribe, that you have people that you can lean into because we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. And that's why it goes with part of what I talk about is this idea of imperfect action. There's no perfect action. If you're trying to have everything perfect, good luck. That ain't working. And so it's the same thing. Like we're constantly growing. You're constantly growing. You have to grow. And so it's one of those things, part of your journey is the growth process. And I find it unique because when we're going through, so how to spark a friendship, and this comes from the Buddha the Badass. And this actually goes into how to spark the relationship with yourself, how to spark the love for who you are, accepting yourself for who you are. First one is, do I trust this person? Do you trust yourself? And that can be hard because maybe you've gone through situation to situation and it keeps repeating itself. And you're like, what's going on here? Like, so if it happens where you're falling into that same relationship, same situation, you may look at yourself and be like, I can't trust myself. I can't do it because of X, Y, Z. And so that's where you've got to flip it. And you've got to be able to trust yourself. And you've got to understand that every experience that you have is a growth opportunity. And so that's where you look and you're like, okay, what did I learn from this situation? What's there that I can take from, to grow from, to run with? What lessons there for me to take a hold of and bring forward going into the next organization, relationship, next endeavor, whatever it is. But how do you work to trust yourself? And that can be tough because if you aren't breaking the stories and you're not breaking down those paradigms, because the one thing that I had to deal with was this idea that I wasn't worthy. So if I didn't trust myself to be worthy, what does that do for every relationship going forward? What does that do going forward with every opportunity that may be present? It's not going to be good. It's not going to work out, because if I don't believe I'm worthy, it's not working out. And so this is the thing, like, how do you build that trust with yourself? You've got to do the work. It's up to you to do that work. It's up to you to love yourself. It's up to you to build that relationship with yourself. And then the next question is, so the first one was, do I trust this person? The secondary question to think about is, do I respect this person? And so that's where you've got to look, and you've got to respect yourself. You've got to set these boundaries. You've got to understand who you are. And respecting yourself is not backing down. Respecting yourself is not getting away from your boundaries or tearing down boundaries because you're trying to open up and have everybody love you and you want everybody to accept you. Fuck that shit. Like, respect yourself. Respect the boundaries that you've established, whatever that is. Respect yourself for who you are, for what you bring. Respect yourself by loving yourself. Respect yourself by liking yourself. And that can be tough. It honestly can. But it is up to you in regards to you doing the work, to you loving yourself and accepting yourself for who you are, flaws and everything. And then as you're doing the work, you're pushing out and you're attracting the person that you're meant to be, the person that you're working to be. And so, let me see here. I had something in here. I'm just looking in regards to. So I've been reading another book that I have, and I'll end up putting this also as an affiliate link. It's another book, and I've talked about this book a couple times. It's Single on Purpose by John Kim. And he was talking about in regards with thoughts. You can let go and choose to respond, which is a power-filled choice, instead of react, the powerless choice. And so it's those thoughts. It's your thoughts. Your thoughts are powerful. What thoughts are you stacking? How are you responding? How are you reacting? Because if you're reacting after the thoughts come through, your thoughts are controlling you. If you can get ahead of it and be reactive, or proactive, not reactive, be proactive and control your thoughts and build those, it's going to be a unique thing. It's going to be different in regards to looking at it. And so it's one of those aspects that in here, remember, whatever you feed will grow. So that's the thoughts, that's the stories, that's the people that you surround yourself with, that's the energy. And it's the fact that individuals that put up this front of being positive all the time, and probably a lot of people assume I'm a positive individual, but there I've expressed and I've shown and I've shared different things and whatnot. But it's not the fact of trying to blindly not look at everything and just focus on the positive, because you know what, life sucks. Life is going to come up and punch you in the face, but it does come to the point where things are going to be all right. Things are going to work out. And so it's that positive quotient aspect of looking and understanding that, yeah, sometimes life sucks. Sometimes things that come and push you around. You got challenges that will pop up. And you're like, why is this challenge here? I hate this challenge. Fuck you. But it's there to help you grow. It's there to help you advance and progress and do what you need to. But you've got to remember that what you feed is going to grow. And so if you're constantly feeding the negative, that's what's going to grow. And that's what's going to be attracted into your life. And that's what's going to be showing up. And you're going to be like, what the hell is going on here? What are you feeding? What are you focused on? And it goes into the point because I look at social media, doing the lives, podcasting, really for me is a very selfish thing sometimes, because I truly enjoy talking. And talking is one of those things that if you go look at the science, talking actually releases, I want to say it's serotonin. And so if you're going through a difficult situation, talking is key, because serotonin during those times is going to be all fucked up and jacked up. And so talking helps to, with the regulation, it helps to release that necessary chemical. And I think it's serotonin. Don't quote me on it. You can go look it up. But I believe from what I've heard and studied, it is the serotonin piece that is released, and it does help with the regulation piece and whatnot. But we each have a message. And if this individual is watching this or listening to this, I've met with an individual on Friday and we had talked, and I had given them a challenge to go out and share their story, start sharing it. I don't know if they had done it yet. They had told me they were going to call me out. I haven't seen it yet. So if you're watching this, you know who you are. If you're catching this on the replay and we meet up later and you're mad at me, hey, it's okay. You said I gave you the challenge. I called you out. And did you do it? Did you show up? But the powerful thing about social media, John in here talked about, use social media as a tool to share your story and find your voice. And it can be a scary thing going live, doing the podcast. It can be a scary thing because what's going to jump up is your ego is going to jump up and you're going to start judging yourself. You're going to start holding back and saying, I can't do it because of XYZ. I can't do it because what is this person going to think? And this past Wednesday, last week, you can go check out the video. I'll put the link of the video in the show notes. You can go check out on my Facebook page. So if you're listening to this, go check out my personal Facebook page, Scott Brandt. We had a good friend, myself and Patrick. Patrick knows Amber better than I do. But it was a beautiful thing because Amber got very excited and she reached out to Patrick and she's like, I've got some good news. I've got to share. So Patrick's like, all right, cool. Brought her on to the Dreamer Cypher. Got to give a shout out to Amber because that was her second time of her doing a live. But to hear her, the excitement that she had, the things that were taking place for her because she had shared her message. She got to the point where she's like, screw this. I'm done. I'm not letting life dictate who I am. I'm going to go out there and dictate and tell life who I am and show up. And because she shared her story, she got a lot of great feedback from individuals. Individuals that are part of her leadership team at her job that she's at. Individuals that were reaching out, thanking her for sharing that story. And it's the power of sharing the story. What happens when you share your story, and this comes from John, is when others relate to your story becomes bigger than you. Think about that. How impactful is that? When others relate to your story, that it becomes bigger than you as an individual. And it's one of those things that we have a lot of people that talk about, I want to go and impact one life. If I can go impact somebody else, that would be great. I would love that. Well, shit. Take advantage of the live. Take advantage of podcasting. If you don't want to create your own podcast, start reaching out to individuals that are podcasters and see what you can do to come on their stage. OPS, other people's stages. You have a story in your struggle that's meant to be shared. Your story is your gift that is meant to be shared with somebody else. And that is why I'm very big on pushing individuals, highlighting the importance of going and doing the live, going and getting in front of the camera. I know it's scary. And if you haven't done it before and you're looking at me, because the research behind doing lives is minds of individuals look for faces. They had talked about when individuals are looking at clouds, they see faces. When they're looking at trees, faces are popping up. Your mind is always looking for something that it's used to, a face. And so, yeah, you can go do a blog, you can go do a Facebook post, you can share whatever, which is great. But you know what? What really impacts people is to feel and see the emotion. to feel that energy that somebody's putting on. And it's one of those unique things that podcasting does give that avenue because it's audio. But what I do with my podcast is I do the live streams plus strip it down, get the audio, and throw it on the platform, which technology has not loved me lately. So the podcast episode from last week that I had done, the reason it's not out there is because I was working on some other stuff and it took some time to get the other podcast up and running, which that was the one that I did with David. I'm almost done with last week's episode, so that one will be up and running here soon. So if you're like, where is it? That's what's going on. Technology really kind of came up and tried to do some fun stuff. So, but man, go out there and share your story. If you don't feel confident, you need somebody that can help you out. That's the beautiful thing of a coach. Go and find somebody that you feel comfortable that you can build a partnership with. And that's the thing, you got to understand that if you're working with the coach, it's a two-way street. The coach needs to have a comfort level in that partnership with you as an individual, and you as the individual working with the coach has to have that the feeling of mutual respect between the two, because it is a partnership. It's not one person telling you to do something. No, it's a partnership. And so if either party doesn't feel comfortable in the relationship, it's not working out. And so go and find somebody. If you need somebody to talk to and you're trying to figure out how to craft that heart message, and this is for individuals that own a business. If you're a business owner, find your heart message. Find out who you are that drives you as an individual and separates you from everybody else in your industry. Why do people want to come talk to you? Why do people want to come and meet with you? What is it? And what it is your freaking heart story. Nobody else has that. It's your story. Your story that's meant to be shared. Your story that's meant to be given as a gift to others. But maybe you're thinking, you're like, man, I can't do that. What are people going to think? Fuck that shit. Take the spotlight off of yourself and put it on other people. Quit being selfish. Because these thoughts of what are people gonna think? That's being selfish. Your ego's getting in the way. Go punch the damn ego in the face and tell it to sit down. But if you have questions, if you want to sit down and talk, reach out to myself, reach out to Patrick. Individuals that have been on the show before, I highly trust those individuals to help you out. But you got to go find him, find out that comfort level. Go find out the person that you really mesh with, that you feel comfortable being around, because it is a partnership. Go and talk to somebody. But it is one of those things that honestly, it's going back to the Among Us in real life. Are you playing that game right now in real life? Are you these characters, these spacemen? Are you showing up and trying to hide and blend in with everybody else? Because you were created to stick out. That was from the movie Wonder, I think. But each of us have been created to stick out. We're not meant to blend in and try to be freaking imposter and try to hide in with everybody else. You're meant to do what you're meant to do, whatever that is. You've got to figure that out. That's each of us are different and whatnot. And that's up to you. You've got to do the work. But are you showing up as your true self, or are you showing up as this little green guy with your mask on, trying to hide because you're scared? I know it's scary. And you're like, man, like Scott's over here calling me out, and he doesn't understand that it's a scary thing. Like people, what are people gonna think? Am I going to be accepted? You know what? I'm one of those people that if I'm on my own island and I'm the only one on my island planting this flag, cool. I will be my own person. I will be the only person that's on this island. But if you want to come along and you're like, fuck this shit, I'm ready to go do what I need to. Let's go. Jump on the island with me. Let's go. Let's take over the island. I don't care. But I'm going to do what I need to. I'm going to show up. You either love me or hate me. There's no in between. I'm not fearful to repel the few, because if I'm scared of this small bunch here and to repel them, that ain't going to do anything, because I'm going to miss out on the bigger group, the bigger individuals, to have that relationship piece with the attraction piece. So this little circle that everybody wants to make happy and they're scared to repel, fuck that shit. Get them out of the way. Go and find those people that are meant to be part of your life, that you're meant to attract. And that's you doing the work. Become the person that's meant to have these individuals part of your life. Go and do the work. So, man, Valentine's Day, and hopefully it's one of those things that you're reflecting on and you can look at yourself and accept yourself for who you are, love yourself for who you are. Go through, and even if you're in a relationship, I highly suggest get single on purpose. If you're in a relationship or if you're by yourself, doesn't matter. Go and do the work, because it's a sad thing from my experience. A lot of people get in the relationship and their identity is just the relationship. They've lost themselves and they don't know who they are. And so it was a hard time for me that when I went through the divorce and got to the point where I was by myself again, I didn't know who I was. Wasn't good. And it was because I didn't truly know who I was. I was so young when I got married too. So I didn't know who I was. And I had to do the work. But it does go to the point that I am grateful that the divorce did take place. Why? Because I am now where I'm at now, where I'm meant to be, fulfilling my purpose in life, which is to impact the lives of others. Honestly, truly, it is that point of helping others out, really helping them find that gift in the shit, that struggle that they've gone through, digging through, and let's pull that gift out that's meant to be shared with other people. Who it is, we don't know, but it is your gift that is meant to be shared with others. You just got to go share it. And you can't be selfish. Get the damn spotlight off of yourself and put it on other people. And you're probably like, man, how is that being selfish? It is, because if you're hiding your story and you're hiding your gift, you're missing out on the chance to impact somebody else. So let's go ahead, pull up Poddex here, pulling up the app. We'll run through a couple questions here. But thank you guys for your support. Honestly, truly am grateful for your guys' support. Truly grateful for the individuals that I have in my life, and for those individuals being their true, authentic self for the most part. There are some people that are in my life that I know they're not showing up as their true self. And if that's rubbing you the wrong way and you're listening to this, then you need to do the deep dive. You need to find out why it's rubbing you the wrong way, because that's up to you. You've got to do the work. All right, so we got the philosophy deck. Let's see here. How would you explain your basic life philosophy? So, basic life philosophy. It goes to what I've had to deal with, the journey that I've been on, and it goes to the point of accepting yourself for who you are, loving yourself for everything, quirks, flaws, the highs, the lows, accepting everything. Because if you truly accept yourself and you truly love yourself and you're completing yourself, it's a beautiful thing, because then you can go make a huge impact. You can go do big things. And we're meant to do life together with others. We honestly are. We're social creatures, so we're meant to do life with others. So it does go to the point where if you're going to do life with others, you better know who you are. You better accept yourself for who you are. You better love yourself for who you are. Because how do you expect to show up as your true, authentic self? How do you expect to show up and play 100%? How do you expect to play big? It comes down to the fact of working on that relationship with yourself, loving yourself. And that's probably not here, but when I look at it, that's where we're at. So the question, if you're just checking it out, is how would you explain your basic life philosophy? And my philosophy is accepting yourself for who you are, loving yourself, completing yourself. You're the only individual. You're the only one of you. Nobody else is like you. Let's see here. Is it easier to love or to be loved? There we go. We got Valentine's Day today. But when I look at it, I think it is easier for a lot of people, because I've talked to individuals, and it is one of these correlations, really. And it goes back. It does go back to the whole fact of you got to love yourself. But a lot of people are finding it easier to love others So they're finding it easier to love than it is to be loved, which I think when I look at it, when you think about it, it's hard to be loved if you don't truly love yourself. Because if you don't accept yourself, how do you expect somebody to love you? How do you expect to receive that full love if you don't love yourself? If you don't accept yourself for who you are? And it's one of those things. I think people find it easier to love than to be loved because you can give it and you can push it out. But that's hard too because if you don't truly love yourself, how are you putting out true love? How are you showing up and truly loving people if you don't love yourself? And it goes back to the fact that the most important relationship is the one with yourself. How do you love yourself? How do you accept yourself? How are you showing up? And so I think, but where I'm at now, it did take work, but it is easy to be loved, but it is the work. And so it was the journey that I went on. So for me, it is both ways. It's easy to love others and it's easy to be loved, but it did take work, taking and breaking down and looking at myself in the mirror and saying, I love myself. I love you for who you are. And so that's my experience. It was the piece of doing the work. Man, is having a big ego a negative trait or a positive trait? And so I don't know, like you could look at it maybe because if you get to the point where you love yourself, like maybe somebody, if you accept yourself, like could that potentially be viewed as somebody seeing you having a big ego? Or I don't know. And so is having a big ego a negative trait or a positive trait? Oh man, I think honestly it depends on how the ego is being utilized, which is I don't know. It could go either way. Honestly, it could if you really think about that. That's one of those things. I don't know. Uh, Depends on the situation. But a lot of times when you see it, I think having a big ego can get in the way and can be a negative. But I don't know because I don't know. It just depends on the situation. Thanks, Travis, for that. And so, like I always say, if you're watching this, listening to this, and you're like, what's Scott using, or what is he using? It's called Poddex. It's an app that you can download. It's one of those things that if you're a content creator, if you do a lot of lives, I've seen people on Twitch utilize this to connect with their audience. And you know what? I think about it because this is a great way to connect with audience members. It's a great way to connect with your tribe, really to kind of see how people see the world, to see their opinions, to see their lens. It's a beautiful thing. And so you can have it where potentially somebody presents something differently, and you can look and be like, man, I haven't thought about that before. And you can look and be like, okay, does that potential pivot, does that benefit me or is it not going to do anything for me? And you can decide what it is. But it's these conversation pieces really, when you look at it, it's questions, it's these different ideas that really aren't brought up. And that's why I honestly love, because I'll watch Dr. G. I don't think he's done it lately. I'm not for sure, but truly love watching that part of the lives that he does. I enjoy everything that he does, but it's unique to really just sit there and listen to these questions and listen to that guest, how they see it, hearing something different. It's not the cut and dry stuff of whatever it is, the normal stuff and whatnot. No, it's like stuff that people don't really consider, people don't think about. It makes people think differently, and you get somebody to, you can see something different about somebody else that you haven't thought about before. So let's see here. One more hypothetical question. Let's see here. You get one text, no more than 160 characters, that gets sent to everyone's phone. What does it say? Oh my goodness. When I look at this, the one text that goes out to everybody, he said, gets sent to everyone's phone. So there's no cap here. Everybody's going to be receiving let's fucking go, because that's going to shock people. But it is that part there. And then you got to go out and take the imperfect action. Go and take the imperfect action. Like nothing's perfect. Go and do it. Go give yourself grace and greatness. That's Patrick there. But it is true. Like give yourself grace. Give and create space for yourself as an individual so you can grow. So that would be less than 160 characters. But you know what? If you had the power of that, that would be awesome to see. But you know, it is one of those things that when it comes to cussing, some people have that affinity that it's bad or whatnot, which is it's unique. It is unique, but that's just me because it is one of those things really to shock people, really to have people start thinking differently. And when they get hit in the face with that, they're like, "Oh, whoa!" Like maybe they get mad, but maybe it gets them to think differently. Maybe it gets them to look at something differently. So sometimes you just gotta shock people, which is okay. If they don't like it, cool. That's their lens. That's their opinion. Love them for who they are. Love them where they're at and whatnot. So let's see here. Last one. If you had to do a dance that had never been done in the history of mankind or be killed, what kind of dance would you do? Oh my goodness. Like that had never been done in the history of mankind. That's shit. I guess you know what? Let's go ahead and set the pants on fire and just start doing some crazy stuff with clothes on fire, and you know you get some crazy junk going on here and whatnot. So, but shout out to Travis, shout out to Poddex. Thank you for that avenue there. Just some crazy off the wall stuff. But before we end here, of course, highlighted the sponsor at the beginning, but we've got our sponsors for the show tonight, Rock City Cafe and the Chicken Coop. Two great community spots, two great locations that are driven by individuals that have a heart really to build within the community, to give back, and really focus on more than just the business, really to create the impact and change lives and whatnot. So if you guys have caught this, anything that stuck out, if you're watching the video, leave a comment. Any aha moments that you took away, would love to hear what stuck out to you. Anything that you're looking, you're like, this was crazy, this is not how I see it. Love to hear that. Leave it in the comment section. You can also send me a private message on Facebook, Instagram. We also have the email. I've got a couple of emails too in the show notes that you can hit up and whatnot. But the one that you can hit up if you want is T as in Tango, J as in Journey, B as in Bravo, D as in Delta, 0711@gmail.com. You can send an email that way. Would love to hear feedback. If there's something going on, if you have a idea or a thought, or you have something that maybe you'd like to hear my perspective on or have it on the show, send that through an email. Or if you'd like to come on to the show too, would love to have you on. I'm open to have guests on because love to have the discussions, love to have the conversations. And so if you'd like to come on the show, reach out. Let me know. I'm more than willing, love to have the conversation pieces because that's the beautiful thing of life. And it does make it unique because instead of just me just sitting here talking, having somebody else come in and share their opinion and whatnot. But if you have anything going on, also there's a Facebook group, After Divorce, Grace Laughter Lessons. You can come join. A couple questions that you have to answer and whatnot, but it's another way to build your tribe, to create your tribe, find those people that you can create that space and they give you that space, the non-judgment space. If you have anything that you need to, you feel stuck, you have the aspect of wanting to go from baseline to thriving in whatever part of life, reach out. Let's sit down and talk. We'll do a 30-minute discovery call, see if this would be a good fit, or if maybe see if there's somebody else out there that may be a better fit for you. But ultimately, if you're stuck, don't try to do it by yourself because it is not easy. And it goes to the point where we can get overwhelmed and we don't know what to do. And so we can get lost in the sauce. We can get lost in our thoughts. And having that coach, having that individual that's there with you is the importance of the coach. It's there as an individual to give you that gentle accountability, but to hold the flashlight with you to do that 360-degree look around in your life. You are the expert, you know what's going on, but sometimes we get overwhelmed. And so we need that individual, maybe outside of our own life, that doesn't know who we are, but can be there and give you that space, give you that zone of non-judgment, and really do the work. And let's get you thriving. Let's get you to that place that you want to be, wherever that's at and whatnot. And then, of course, there are different ways that you can provide support to the show. There's a link in Anchor that you can provide a monthly donation. And as a content creator, that's one of the ways, along with sponsorships, but that's another way that by creating the content, creating the value, and giving it to people, really what helps individuals to keep doing that, because they can be a thankless job sometimes. And I've talked about this because it is very non-tangible. I don't know what's going on. I don't know the impact that's happening, but until I hear it, I don't know. It's a very intangible thing. So if there's anything that's impacted you, that's really helped you out and whatnot, would love to hear that, because that does allow me to know that impact's being made. But I know impact's being made one way or the other, but it is nice to hear it, to really have it spoken by other people and to hear that, because it is, like I said, it's an intangible thing. You can't see it until you hear it. You just never know and whatnot. So again, thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for your time. The podcast with the audios actually can be found on several different platforms. I think it shows 8, but it's pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. So if you found value in this, I also ask that you share it. Either share the live, share the video, or share the podcast. Share it with individuals that you know are struggling, that could benefit from what's being shared, and those that you don't know what's going on. Maybe they're struggling, but they're not showing up, or they're not showing it. Just share it. The more we can share, the more value we can create, the more impact we can create and impact the world and help change lives and whatnot. So again, thank you guys for your support. I love you guys. Thank you for you being you. Thank you for who you are. But other than that, I'll catch you guys next week. Have a great week. Love you. Peace out.